Have you ever wondered what it would be like to face any challenge with serenity and wisdom? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where everything seemed lost, but something inside you urged you to keep going? Today, you will discover a powerful story that illustrates how the greatest obstacles can be overcome with courage, unity, and the wisdom of the ancients. Join us as we explore the legend of an elder ninja who, with a simple amulet, changed the fate of his village. And just like him, you too can find the keys to transform your own life. Stay with us, because this story just might be exactly what you need. Under the soft light of the full moon, the village of Aokigahara transformed into a scene of profound stillness, where the shadows of the trees danced slowly to the rhythm of the wind, and the scent of damp earth filled the air. The children, gathered around a gentle fire, looked expectantly at the old ninja Kenji, who sat calmly on a fallen tree trunk, his small, serene eyes reflecting the firelight. It was a tranquil night, almost magical, and the murmur of the wind through the leaves seemed to whisper ancient secrets. The children knew that this night would be special, for whenever Kenji spoke, his words carried a wisdom that transcended mere storytelling. Their voices hushed into a reverent silence, waiting for him to weave yet another narrative. Kenji remained silent for a few moments, allowing the calm of the night to permeate the atmosphere. His breathing was slow and measured, as if he were preparing to dive deep into the memories he was about to share. Finally, he raised his hands gently, signaling the children to come closer. "Tonight," he began, in a low, captivating voice, "we will talk about the jade amulet. It is not merely an artifact. It is not just a piece of jewelry. It carries our story, the story of our ancestors, and of a time when courage and unity were our greatest weapons." His voice softly echoed across the open field, each word carefully chosen to settle in the hearts of his listeners. The children, with wide eyes, awaited more as Kenji slowly pulled the jade amulet from within his tunic, holding it up to the light of the fire, where it shimmered with a soft and mysterious glow. The jade amulet, hanging from an aged cord, seemed to reflect the very light of the fire, casting small green reflections on the ground around it. The children leaned forward, observing the object with fascination. "This amulet," Kenji continued, "is not just a symbol of power. It has been passed down through generations, from one warrior to another, in times of great challenges. Its story is ancient, just like the story of our village, and each bearer has left a mark on it, a reminder of courage and honor." The children were absolutely still, barely breathing, absorbing every word with a mix of curiosity and admiration. The old ninja spun the amulet between his fingers, his eyes fixed on it as though he were seeing something beyond the physical object, perhaps the memories of many who had held it before. Kenji then began to recount the tale of Hiroshi, one of the bravest heroes of the village. His voice grew deeper, filled with emotion, as if he were reliving each moment of the legend. "In a time of war, when our village stood on the brink of destruction, Hiroshi rose as a true leader. He was young, but his courage set him apart. When the enemy surrounded our lands and hope seemed lost, Hiroshi stepped forward in front of his companions with the amulet in his hands. He knew that the battle ahead would not be won solely with physical strength, but also with spirit and strategy. The jade amulet, with its ancient secrets, seemed to pulse in his hands, as if the spirits of his ancestors were with him. The children, their eyes glued to Kenji, could almost visualize the young warrior, his determined expression, and the amulet shining in his hands. The battle that followed was fierce. Kenji continued, his voice low, almost a whisper, as if the flames of the fire were listening. Arrows flew through the skies, and the sound of clashing metal resonated throughout the forest. Hiroshi's warriors fought bravely, but the enemy was relentless. Many fell around him, but Hiroshi, with the amulet in hand, invoked the protection of the spirits of the forest. He raised the amulet to the sky, and with a voice that echoed across the battlefield, he cried out, "Ancestral spirits, guardians of our land, come to our aid." The wind, as if responding to the warrior's call, began to blow stronger. The trees swayed as if touched by invisible hands, and the atmosphere around the children grew even more intense as Kenji brought the battle to life in their minds. In that moment, Kenji's narrative took on a more mysterious and powerful tone. With the amulet raised to the sky, a gust of wind swept across the battlefield, deflecting the enemy arrows and shielding the defenders. The enemy, surprised by the sudden change, hesitated. It was as if nature itself was intervening on behalf of Hiroshi and his warriors. The wind formed a circle around them, an invisible barrier that kept them safe. And then, the spirits of the forest revealed themselves, translucent figures, their forms distorted by the wind, emerging from the trees. The enemies froze in fear, unable to comprehend what was happening. Kenji's voice grew softer but laden with gravity. The children could envision those ethereal figures rising from the shadows to protect the village. Kenji paused for a moment, allowing silence to fill the space between him and his listeners. The amulet was not merely a magical object. It responded to the courage and spirit of the one who bore it. Hiroshi did not win the battle alone. He triumphed because he believed in something greater than himself, because he was connected to his land, to his people, and to the spirits of his ancestors. When the enemy finally retreated, it was not just because of the strength of the warriors, but because of the unity of all of them, guided by that small jade object that carried the history of many. The children were now entranced, realizing that the amulet was not just a powerful object, but a symbol of everything that united their community. "This is our story," Kenji said, pausing to let his words settle in the hearts of each child. "A story of unity, courage, and respect for what came before us. The jade amulet reminds us that true strength lies not only in the weapons we wield, but in the spirit we carry within us, and in our ability to come together in times of need." Kenji looked around, his eyes shining in the firelight. Each child was completely immersed in the moment, aware that they were not just listening to a legend, but learning something they would carry with them for the rest of their lives. Just as the jade amulet of Elder Kenji represented not only power but the unity and courage of a people, the true lesson of this story is that, in real life, our strength comes from within. When we unite with those around us and face our internal battles with wisdom, we discover that we are capable of overcoming any obstacle. Sometimes the secret is not to fight harder, but to understand what is truly within our control and to act with calmness and strategy. And for you watching and listening, know that you too are part of this journey. Join us for the next lesson, and together we will continue to walk the path of wisdom.